guitar's got that swing. Glasses clink, hear the ice cubes sing. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. There's Troy laughing with his gin and a grin, telling stories about where he's been. Boomer's got whiskey, he's loosening his tie, chasing dreams under a midday sky. The bartender knows us, he's mixing with flair. Every sip's a moment we're happy to share. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for a day. The clock don't matter, we're lost in the vibe. Jazz in the air, feel the soul come alive. From martinis to bourbon, we're riding the wave. Stealing this hour, it's the freedom we crave. Sun's still shining, but we're in our zone. This bar's our shelter, our temporary home. One more round before the world calls us back. Savor the moment, keep the blues in the rack. We'll laugh and we'll toast till the afternoon fades. Memories made in these liquid escapades. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun. Our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon. Chasing that jazz under the high noon.
Salut and welcome to another week, another liquid lunch. Happy Monday to you. And I am not saying that necessarily this is a happy Monday. I am saying I wish you a happy Monday. I hope you are having a happy Monday. And if not, may it get better as we go. That's kind of the plan for the show anyway, right? Want to kick it off by saying hi to the people that I see here early, such as me and my monkey sneaking into my chat. He says he's responding to the implied question. Well, it's not really implied. The title is a question. What is a professional? He says a professional can be someone in a specific field with a particular set of skills and training and adheres to an ethical code, or anyone who has a job. So there you go. And as I point out to him, that's pretty close to the definition that I found online that I'm going to start out with. So we'll get to that. Then there's, of course, the lovely Netter of Netters Network, who says hello to the love of her life. That's me. I love you too, my dear. She says like, share, subscribe, become a member, and leave a comment. Yes, it's that engagement we need. Honestly, I've always said I don't mind if you lurk, but the fact is, if you're lurking these days, YouTube doesn't even recognize you as an engagement. Seriously. It's gotten pretty darn ridiculous these days. So unless you're stopping in and saying hello, as Mark Melnikoff says, Mechpo, he says, here I are. Welcome, welcome. And Jesse Green, 619, have not seen you in a while, my friend. Good to see you. He says, hello, all. Jonathan Conroy, who says, hail all, smash the like button and enjoy the show. I do hope you will like the show. I really do. Yeah, he acknowledges. It's been a long time. I'm so glad you're back. I hope you're doing well, Jesse. I really do. Yes, it is good afternoon. And Mark says, Mondays suck. Well, I hope they suck a little bit less after a good liquid lunch. Enigma Severus says, Happy Troy! Good to see you. Welcome, Enigma. Glad to see you. And I do believe that catches us up. So I'll go ahead and start getting into it. So I kind of decide what topic I'm going to talk about on a fairly daily type of basis. Welcome, Connie. Good to see you. Wonderful Blue Wrench. Glad you're here. And channel member. I was kind of inspired to this topic because of a recent interview that I saw on another channel. And it got me thinking about the way people think about what it means to be a professional. I'll go so far as to say I think there's a lot of people that have lost sight of what it means to be professional. We'll get into that in a little bit, but let's start out with that definition that I was talking about earlier. A professional is someone, and this isn't my definition, this is something I found online. A professional is someone who demonstrates expertise, competence, and ethical conduct in their field of work. This often involves specialized knowledge, skill, and qualification obtained through education, training, and experience. Professionals are typically held to certain standards of conduct and are accountable for their actions. I would say, especially with that last thing, being accountable for their actions, if you are self-employed, you are therefore accountable to your customers. In a way, they are your employers, right? You'll notice there was one thing that I did not specifically say in there. It wasn't part of the definition. It's not that I edited it myself or anything. It doesn't talk about certification. It does talk about education, which could be formal or informal. It talks about training, which generally means doing the thing with someone else who has more experience than you do. And experience, which is something that you never start with, but you gain as you do, right? So one could argue one could be self-taught, a trade or a skill, and you would become professional as you practice. You earn a living doing it. As me and my monkey said, if you have a job, implying if you are being paid to do the thing, you can be considered to be a professional. But certification, what is certification? We assume that it means you've received some sort of a degree or you have some proof of training. But honestly, I would argue that most people you do business with are certified in that they are educated in what they're doing, they are skilled, but you never see any piece of paper that they've gotten. You don't know what plumbing school the plumber went to, or where he did his journeyman training or any of that. You assume because he's got reviews online, people liked what he did for them. Hey, would you come fix my sink? And when when he leaves and your sink, the water goes on and it goes down the drain and everything's good and there's no leaks, that's good enough for you, right? You didn't need to see that piece of paper. In fact, what does that piece of paper mean? Think about the Wizard of Oz. Remember that movie? And they go to the wizard, and at the end they're getting their dreams, the wishes that they had that the wizard would grant for him. And I'm trying to remember exactly what it was that. So the cowardly lion, he wants courage, and he goes, well, courage, is I don't remember the exact words he says, but people confuse courage with an intelligent concern about danger. He says you have plenty of courage, you just don't realize it. But there's one thing that you don't have, and that's what anyone with courage gets, and it's an award, and he gives them an award for courage, a big medal, right? And I want a brain. Goes, well, there's a lot of people without brains that do a lot of talking. We call them politicians, but a lot of learned people, who have no more brains than you do. But there's one thing they've got that you haven't got, and that's a diploma. And he just hands them a diploma, and then he says something that sounds smart, and if you really pay attention, it's kind of meaningless. It sounds very similar to the Pythagorean theorem, but it's not the Pythagorean theorem that he recites. And from a mathematical standpoint, it's actually gibberish, which I think is a joke in and of itself, a layered joke for the smart people. As if the diploma suddenly made him smart. And I don't remember what Tin Man got and all that kind of stuff. But what is Mark saying? Training these days is tossing new recruits to the jackal mastiff on the surface of Uropente. If they survive, they keep their job. Sad state of affairs. But it's not too different than it was in ye old days, right? Survival of the fittest. Sink or swim. Push them into the water. If they can swim, they tread water, and then you go, okay, now let me teach you how to do that a little bit more efficiently. If they drown, well, they learn something too, right? If had office like doc or lawyer. Think about the education that they get, though. These days, the information is available to anybody. Could you not be self-taught? Could you not educate yourself without actually going to school? I mean, this isn't really true, but there was a legend that that Abraham Lincoln was self-taught, that he used to write equations and notes and stuff on a in the dirt, in the dust on a spade, from the fireplace, because he was so poor, and then he was self-educated. And I will shock you and tell you that if someone so chose, you could get a law degree without ever actually attending a university. You can. You can be self-educated and go and pass the bar. But that, there again, is certification, right? And what is certification? But the industry controlling who they will allow to practice. If you are as educated as that person, and you know the law as well as that person, and you don't have this piece of paper, and you don't pay your union dues, you can't practice. It's not proof that you're any better educated than the other guy. It's control by an industry. Let me get into what I mean by this. So, for example, let's talk about, we tend to talk about entertainment on this channel. So let's talk about the history of entertainment, right? For probably before humans started writing down their history, right? They have performed for each other. They have sung, they have made music, they have given speeches, they have performed plays. And that's where I'm getting at, the performing plays, right? We know that there are plays going back to, ancient Greece, right? They used to perform in big theaters. They had all kinds of different performances. Some were, more lofty, some were more common. But that was the form of entertainment. Jump ahead to the time of the Bard, that Bill what's-his-name, who either wrote in Old English or Klingon, we're not really sure which. He wrote things like Romeo and Juliet and, Macbeth and Hamlet, plays, because how else were you to perform a piece of art, right? And it continued along where if you were an actor, you performed on the stage. That was what acting was. Until about the 1910s, the 1920s, right? This period saw the rise of Nickelodeons, the establishment of Hollywood as a major film center, and the introduction of longer, more narrative-driven films. And the cinema was born. The popularity continued to grow with the advent of sound in 1927, ushering in the golden age of Hollywood. And what happened then? You had a lot of actors who would say, well, I am a real actor. I perform in the legitimate theater. Hold on to that word legitimate. We're going to come back to that a number of times this afternoon. Legitimate actor on the legitimate stage, as opposed to cinema, which is so vulgar, right? Throughout the 30s, the 40s, into the 50s, more and more people started going to the cinema to watch movies. Less and less people were going to the legitimate theater. Why? Because it was too expensive. They really couldn't afford it. So the mass market started going to the theater. And then you end up in the golden age of Hollywood, where you're now having award ceremonies and red carpets, and people start thinking of the movie star as American royalty, right? So now, if you're an actor, you're on the silver screen. That's an actor. You don't even, if you're on a stage, that's great, but that's what you do when you can't make it in movies now. Those legitimate actors on the legitimate stage are now suddenly the has-beens. It's all about the silver screen, right? And then the 1950s rolls along, and you have, starting in the 20s and 30s, you have the advent of television. But it doesn't really take off because we had a war on, right? World War II. But by the 50s, you had about 9% of American households who had TVs. But that surged to about 90% by 1960. So now, yes, you still went to see films, but a lot of your entertainment you can get on a day-to-day basis right in your own home. First in black and white, just like in the movies. First in black and white, and then later on in color. Got color in the cinema first, and then eventually you got it on TV too. So now I can see things. But the movies, I still have to go to the movies, right? So you had the cinema actors going, well, I'm a real actor. But those people on the TV, that's the people that can't get into movies, right? And honestly, it was that way for a very, very long time. But there eventually came a point, and I'm not sure exactly when it happened. I don't know if it was in the 80s, the 90s, but definitely now, being a TV star is at least as important as being a movie star. It used to be that if you were a movie star and you started doing television, that meant you'd taken a step down. And that if you were on television and you started doing cinema, that was a step up. That's no longer the case, because so many movie actors are starting to do television. And now, even beyond that, they're doing streaming. All it means is that instead of it being on a TV on a scheduled basis, it's coming to your computer, which can be played to your TV if you want to, whenever you feel like. But it's still the same idea of consumption. And we are seeing, and we're talking about this a lot, the industry I would argue this goes back decades, but to be honest, if we want to put a fine point on it, it starts in like 2020, after a little thing happened, right? The paradigm shifted, and now nobody is going to the cinema anymore. They're just waiting for the movie to come out on streaming. So even if you are a legitimate actor on the silver screen, your film is being consumed by people watching it on a little box in their home. So how much? What does that really mean? You know, what does it mean then to be a professional actor, right? So now let's dig into television a little bit more. Oh, wait a minute. When the pretty lady says something, you stop and look. Same with actors doing commercials. That great point. I did not even think about that, but you are spot on there. Used to be that that's how they started out. That's right. There's a lot of, and in fact, you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s. There's a lot of people that became bigger stars that started out in commercials. Now it's, hey, they want me to hype their product. Yes, it's like a full circle kind of thing. It used to be that little girl that was in the French fry commercial ended up being on a television show, and then she ended up in a movie, right? Now it's that person that was in the movie or is in this regular television show is being asked to sponsor, this thing and put their name, as the spokesperson for this, right? And what is it? It's money, right? Because they get residuals. Every time that commercial plays, that actor gets more money, more money, more money. In fact, a lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of actors here in the United States that we were talking about this on Live from Sparkwood in 21. Actors that were in Twin Peaks would go to Japan and do coffee commercials for their canned coffee, and they did it as though it was like, a Twin Peaks spin-off sort of advert campaign. And there's a lot of people that have done Japanese adverts, that they're big in Hollywood, and you never see those commercials because they're all done in Japan. I don't know what that's all about. That's probably a whole sub thing that we could talk about, but let's see. Oh, I thought I brought this up. Big Al's here. Sorry I'm late, finishing up with the nurse. I understand. We understand it all. Absolutely. So let's go back to the television again, right? So one of the things that has been very much in the news for the last week, it's probably been for longer than this, but some big news broke this past week, and we covered it last night on Geeky Geezers. And Boomer said to me about this particular news bit, he's like, "Are you surprised?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. Everybody saw this coming. This is not a shock to anybody." But just last week, Stephen Colbert found out that his show is being canceled. They're going to round out his contract until, what is it, March or May of 2026? Only because basically he's already been paid for it. So the money's already out. So finish it out and then you're done. Why is that? Well, let's take a look at why that is. Actually, before we look at that, I'm going to jump over to our promos real quick, talk about what's coming up this week, just so we don't have to deal with it at the end of the show. That'll give me a chance to refill my drink, and in less than 3 minutes, we'll be back, and then we'll take a look at this article. See you on the other side.
You are watching Liquid Lunch, streaming every weekday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. Let's sip together. This week on Live from Sparkwood and 21, an actress begins to adopt the persona of her character in a film as her world becomes nightmarish and surreal. Join us for the second half of David Lynch's Inland Empire, this Tuesday at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern on Deleted Scenes and Affiliates.
The United Planets of Teal and the Vandor Confederacy are at war. Now their two champions must do battle before the panel of arbiters to decide the outcome while the universe looks on. Simple enough. Except Tarrant's brother is the first champion of Teal and Servalan is the neutral arbiter. It's Death Watch. This Tuesday on Last Call presents Blake 7 at 10 p.m. Central, 11 Eastern.
It's Thursday night, and Netters Network talks to the streamers who have everybody talking. It's Thursday Things, Thursdays at 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Netters Network.
This week on Saturday Night at the Movies, David is 8 years late for dinner, and the U.S. government wants to know why. Come along on the greatest adventure of the summer. It's Flight of the Navigator. This week on Big Al Presents Films with Friends. Saturday at 9 Central, 10 Eastern.
Every Sunday evening, Aged Boomer and Papa Pacelli bring you the rundown of the week's geek news, or at least what they think is interesting. You may have heard about it somewhere else, but Boomer and Pacelli put a spin on it you likely won't hear anywhere else. It's Geeky Geezers, every Sunday evening at 8 Central, 9 Eastern.
We now return to our liquid lunch.
Welcome back. Let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to share my screen here. Let me get rid of that. Sorry about that. Go away. Why won't you go away? Trying to delete you. Remove. Thank you. There we go. Share screen. I'll do the whole screen. Don't need the sound. Share. Bring it up. There we go. So this one's coming to us from Breitbart. We're talking about Stephen Colbert finding out he's going to be out of work. And why? Because nobody is watching Stephen Colbert anymore. The late night host, right? Report, Stephen Colbert Late Show operated at a $40 million loss for years. Guys, you cannot argue with those numbers. All business, the purpose of all business is to make money. Not to lose money, to make money. If people are not earning a living, if they are not getting making enough to get by to cover their costs in life, maybe accumulate some wealth, then they're not going to bother doing it. Now, Stephen Colbert doesn't care whether or not the network makes money. He had made his money. He signed a contract. $14 million a year, specifically. So that $40 million loss, I don't know if that's $40 million the show is losing, including his $14 million, or not. But either way, that's not what you call a success. But is he a professional? Is he more of a professional than someone who has no costs, no overhead, who is streaming on YouTube? Look, I don't make $14 million a year. I don't even make $2,000 a year doing this alone. But I do make something. If I make more than $1, that's more profitable than a loss of $40 million. Right? And he's the professional and I'm not? Now, I'm not saying that anyone here in the chat has claimed I am not a professional. But we'll get to that. Let's get into the article. So, keep in mind this is from Breitbart, so this is an ostensibly right-leaning, right-biased news outlet. I would argue that is not the case so much as they want to purport themselves to be, but be that as it may. While the left is lamenting the loss of Stephen Colbert, and I would note that Stephen Colbert got his start pretending to be a conservative when he was really lampooning the conservative side, right? Oh, thank you so much, FKHC 2005, whom we lovingly refer to as Tim. He says $1 for to support the channel. I appreciate that. There you go. I have made $1. I am doing $40,000,001 better than Stephen Colbert's show does. Think about that. Think about that for a second. Lamenting the loss of Stephen Colbert, and this is, of course, referencing a couple of other talk show hosts that are shocked and appalled, who probably are going to be losing their jobs pretty soon, too. Their CBS late night shill, the network had already given Colbert years of operating at a huge loss before finally canceling him. Yeah, bad business decision, but be that as it may. Real quick, I want to say hi because I see someone I admire a great deal. Another person that I consider to be a professional who has been a professional in his industry and then has moved to a streaming platform, and I would argue remains a professional, and that is Pops on Pop Culture. Pops says, good riddance. Wonder how Letterman feels. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Deleted Scene says, out of work early today, listening while running errands. Good to see you, Deleted Scenes. Looking forward to hanging out with you on Live from Sparkwood in 21. Let me know if you'll be able to make it to tonight's members stream. Kimmel doubled down on the derision by calling audiences the Sheldons, people who watch the network but not Colbert. That's interesting because I didn't really understand that quote. So if that's what they meant, as good as any, whatever. But this is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. These are the same people that would that deride the people that are taking their jobs, right? We are the professionals. We are the late night people. And then they look at all the people in the YouTubeosphere that are actually making money, maybe not $14 million a year, but they're also not operating at a $40 million loss, and saying, but we're the professionals, not you people. We are the professionals. Well, really? Really? Just like those legitimate stage actors when Hollywood took over, right? And just like the Hollywood actors when television and streaming took over. Guess what? We're seeing another paradigm shift. And what constitutes legitimate is changing. What constitutes professional is changing. And people that are sticking to their guns are going to just find themselves out of jobs. Just like this guy here. CBS announced on Thursday that they will be shutting down The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in March of next year. Okay, it was March. I couldn't remember if it was March or May. Network bosses aren't merely sending Colbert to the unemployment line, but they are ending the entire production, marking the end of the network's decades-long tradition of night television that started with host David Letterman in '93. Stephen Colbert, I'm not being replaced. The late night show itself is ending. Is that any better? Does that make you feel better about losing your $14 million a year? Colbert opened his show Thursday with a note to fans. Give me just a second here. Bit of a distraction here. I'm going to close this. My apologies. Opened his show with a note to fans that the show will be winding down, and the studio audience booed the network. He thanked fans and employees alike for putting on the show since he came in as host in 2015. But the cancellation is not exactly sudden or unjustified. According to Puck's Matthew Baloney, the top execs at CBS have been wrestling with the problem for months, and Colbert himself was alerted that there were cancellation plans coming. As it turns out, he had been a huge drag on the network. Baloney noted that The Late Show has been losing about $40 million a year at least since 2021 season, when ad revenue plummeted and never began ticking back up. The Late Show is simply not worth the $100 million annual production costs, and CBS says that the cancellation is just a matter of economics. Folks, there are people here on YouTube doing talk shows from home studios for pennies, and they're doing a better job. And they are getting more return on investment than these people spending $100 million, for crying out loud. The Late Show is simply not worth $100 million annual production costs. The CBS says that the cancellation is a matter of economics. The cancellation has nothing to do with Colbert's constant left-wing tilting either. It's all about the Benjamins. I agree that it's all about the Benjamins, but one has to question why people aren't watching. Might it have to do with that left-wing linging? And not even so much that. The way he presents it. He used to be funny. He's not funny anymore. He just rants. So apparently, it's not a winning strategy, right? But maybe somebody who rants and is funny might make more money. Someone like, I don't know, Critical Drinker, right? He's critical, he rants, but he's funny. He entertains, but he's not legitimate. He's not legitimate because he's on streaming. He's just, he's not a professional. The big question here is how long will it be before NBC and ABC follow suit and ditch their late night shows, all of which are losing money and viewers? Probably not long. They saw someone else did it, and they're like, "Oh, they're getting out. Maybe we should get out too." That's usually how these industries go. Still, the pure economics of the matter isn't stopping the conspiracy theorists on the left, who in their fevered imagination have decided that Colbert's firing is a favor to President Donald Trump, who just won a huge $16 million settlement from CBS. Oh, yeah. It's Donald Trump's fault. It's not because they broke the law, right? Otherwise they wouldn't have, won that court case, right? Okay, you could say it was a settlement, so they didn't really win. Well, why do you settle if you are so certain that you're in the right and you're going to win? You know you're in the wrong, and so you settle. Just saying, I think about that line from Liar Liar. Stop breaking the law, hole. Anyway, so that was that little nugget there, and so I bring to you again, what does it mean to be professional? If that's professional, I don't want it, right? Kimmel doubled down on the derision by calling audiences. Oh yeah, he did, and it's just going to make it that much more sweeter when he gets kicked to the curb. I'm actually surprised that he wasn't the first. I thought this jamoke was going to be going at least a season beyond Kimmel, but whatever. Every studio has to figure themselves out. You made $4 total today from me. Thank you again, Tim. There you go. See, that's that much more that I am making than the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. It really is amazing. Hey, networks relocate 40 million to 40 creators, 1 million each, content and more content people would enjoy. Remember G4, they had to have the big studio set up only to fail. Yeah, they spent a lot of money on that studio, and how did that work out for them? Welcome, Nate. Thank you so much for being here. Subscribe, comment, become a member. Thank you so much. So yeah. Let's look at the, we're talking about entertainment, but let's get a little socio-political historic here, right? If you've ever, we just celebrated the 4th of July recently, and over on Big Al Presents, we watched the musical 1776, right? And although it wasn't focused on, there's a line that alludes to the history that Benjamin Franklin had as a ambassador overseas. He was an ambassador to Europe from, the colonies, right? Looking for a little help with this little dust-up we were having with King George. And he wasn't treated very well. He was not treated very well at all. He was looked down on. He wasn't seen as being a legitimate ambassador because the colonies were just colonies of Britain. They weren't a legitimate country. And that changed in a very, very big way. I would argue that it's not just our independence that caused the end of the British Empire, but it was one of the indications that it was happening. And although technically there is still a British Empire, it's more an empire in name only, as the various countries that are supposed to be part of the British Empire are becoming more and more self-sufficient and giving just lip service to a king who is becoming more and more irrelevant as time goes. So I would argue that, as they say, pride goeth before a fall. The person who says, well, this new industry is not legitimate. You're not legitimate. Your opinions aren't legitimate. Only mine are, because I've been published here and I've studied there. And how's that working out for you? Professional? Are you earning a living doing what you're doing? Or do you need to suddenly start learning to code? Right? Again, I'm going to hold up Pops as an example. He has been covering entertainment for a very long time in the so-called legitimate, sphere. And he has made a transition to a new medium. And he's self-taught. He figured out how to do the YouTube thing, and he's actually taught me a great deal. I've learned a lot from Pops. And he's made suggestions and talked to me about marketing and all kinds of things. Wait a minute. Does that mean I'm getting educated in this profession? Am I becoming a professional by learning from somebody who has more experience and an education in this? Really? Pride goes before a fall. So one of the things in my definition of what a professional is was a code of ethics, right? How do you behave when you are professional, right? And I think we've all heard this in the business sphere. There's certain things you don't say in an interview. You never badmouth your previous company. You don't do it in the interview. You don't do it online. You're very careful who you ever say anything negative to about the company you used to work for. It's considered very unprofessional, right? That term, unprofessional. It's unprofessional to behave that way, right? If you think about it, what I'm about to describe as unprofessional behavior, you probably see it all the time, but that doesn't make it any less unprofessional. When you go to receive service, whether it's at a restaurant or at a retail location or whatever, and nobody wants to help you, they're not polite, busy on their phone, that we call that unprofessional. And we all know that that's unprofessional. It's becoming more and more common, but we still know that that is unprofessional behavior. Well, you know what else is unprofessional? Calling out other people by name publicly. Unless, you're doing some sort of a legal situation and you have to make an announcement about it. I'm suing so-and-so. This is the charge. And this is all I can tell you because my lawyer said I can't say anymore. Something like that. But there's YouTube channels that I don't care for, that maybe I've had some personal experiences with, that is why I no longer follow them. And I think I've talked about them obliquely, and only those that know. And anyone who doesn't, sorry, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you who treated me in a nasty way and talk badly about them and tell you not to watch their channel. If you want to watch somebody's channel, you watch them and enjoy them. And, if you don't, you don't. That's entirely up to you. Why do I do that? You could say I'm taking the higher road. You could say that I'm trying to be professional. It's just bad form, right? You do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? I have received so many compliments about this channel and about what we do here, Netter's channel, Netter's network, this whole idea of building up other people, right? If I don't mention somebody, I either don't know them at all or have never heard of them before, so how could I mention them? Or I don't like them. And that's the worst you're going to get from me is I'm not going to talk about them, right? But people I like, I'm going to tell you about them. What are some of the channels that I talk about all the time? Well, obviously, the ones that I'm directly affiliated with, like Deleted Scenes and Age of Boomer, Netter's Network, and, you know, the stuff that I do and so forth. But, you know, Pops and Retro Blasting and Midnight's Edge, all the Midnight's Edges, right? WDW Pro, That Park Place, you know, Culture Casino. Some of these people I've met personally, some I haven't, but I like them. And if I like them, I figure you'll probably like them. So I want you to check them out, right? If there's somebody that I see, you know, in the chat who's a YouTuber and they've got a channel and they are trying to build their channel, I'm going to try to be like Pops. I'm going to try to be like Pops. Try to give any help, any advice, anything I can. Right? So imagine doing that for somebody and then having them come back and imply that you aren't a professional or people in your sphere aren't professional. That kind of hurts. It's hard not to take that personally. Even though I'm sure, oh, I didn't mean you. I didn't mean you. Really? Nate, I want to thank you for the $2. Social media killed the late night talk show. That's right. That's absolutely right. That's exactly what I'm getting at. Nate, let me know something. If someone says something racist to you and then says to you, oh, but Nate, I don't mean you. Does that make you feel any better? Really? Oh, you're racist against, you know, everyone that looks like me except me. Just saying. Just saying. The British Empire is a shadow of its former self, monarchy. Well, and this is what my analogy is. The legacy media, we call it the legacy media for a reason. Because they're a shadow of their former selves. People used to respect people like Walter Cronkite, right? Nobody respects the modern media anymore. Nobody does. And they're the professionals? And we're nothing? Just saying. Treat people like crap, low-paid jobs eliminated, dumbed down, overloaded responsibilities, and low morale creates all of that. Yep, I get that. I get that. But I used to be in management. And I had an assistant who often told me about, you know, how crappy it was that, you know, the pay that they got and the this and the that. And I'm like, true. But you take your paycheck every week, don't you? As crappy as it is, as low as it is, you still take that paycheck, right? And the customer that came in looking for help from you, is it their fault you're not making as much as you should? No. They're the reason you get paid. At all. Remember that when you're interacting with them. If you're not going to treat them in a professional manner, maybe you're in the wrong business. Find another job. Do unto others as you would do to yourself. Well, be careful when you say it that way, or you like to get visited by domination. Yeah, I see where you're going with that, Tim. I don't know. You make a great point, Tim. You may be joking. That doesn't make it any less legitimate a point, you know? Of course it's personal. See? Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my friend. I have heard the joke, going back to the whole racial thing. I've heard people make jokes and say, oh, I'm not racist. I hate everybody equally. which is funny. But the reality is, Dr. King dreamed of a world where people would be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, right? Another way to say that is, if I'm going to hate somebody, I'm going to hate them individually, not because of the color of their skin. It's because they were an asshole to me. That's why I hate somebody. The Federation is a Homo sapiens only club. Present company accepted, of course. Yeah, yes. That was Azad Bohr, the Chancellor's daughter, who herself ended up becoming Chancellor. True story. Davis's girl I met at the DMV. She was white. I'm black. We went out on a date, and every non-white foreigner, that's said every racial slur they could think of coming out of their mouth, and she turns to me and says, "I don't mean you, because you're American." I excused myself to go to the bathroom, and I went home. Changed my phone number. Yeah, I don't blame you at all. I don't mean you, you're American. Judge people by the content of their character, not by any generality, right? Who is the professional actor? Someone on the legitimate stage? Someone who's in legitimate films? Someone who's in independent films? Someone who makes an independent film and releases it themselves outside of the studio system on the internet. Which one is the legitimate actor? I would say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's all I have to say about that. So my friends, I thank you so much. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Be kind to one another. It's really not that difficult. And until the next one, which for my members will be tonight, we'll be watching Sunset Boulevard. For all the rest of you, Liquid Lunch tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
Goodbye. Hope to see you again real soon.
So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun, our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon, chasing that jazz under the high noon.